All of us at Electrifying.com do a little jump of joy when Kia announces a new car. And whilst the EV6 is the one grabbing most of the limelight, it's the e-Niro that's been quietly getting the big sales numbers. In fact, Britain's second best-selling electric car is the e-Niro, right behind the all-conquering Tesla Model 3. So that means the new one is a big deal. And I'm here at Kia's European HQ to take a look. Here are 10 things that you need to know about the new Niro Electric. And not all of them are good news. Now, when the Niro was first launched, there was really nothing except a Tesla that could come close to its range figures. Now, of course, rivals have caught up, but Kia have improved too, increasing the range by, wait for it, 5 miles. So that takes us to 287 miles of range. Look, it's still short of the magic 300 mark, but it is still plenty for most of us. And this is possible by cutting some of the weight out of the car and also increasing the battery from 64 kilowatt hours to 64.8 kilowatt hours. All the models are going to use this new battery version. Apparently nobody buys the current smaller battery, so it won't be returned. Another area where those rivals have made the Niro EV look a bit old is when it comes to charging speeds. So the outgoing car can take a maximum input of 77 kilowatts on a DC rapid public charge point. This new one, it actually goes down to 72 kilowatts. It's worth mentioning that these are the peak figures and the electronics have been tweaked so it can take that maximum for longer. So it means that the overall charging time has fallen from 54 to 43 minutes to go from 10 to 80% capacity on a suitable charger. Now, part of the electronic improvements mean that when it's cold outside, the system will preheat the battery if you select a charging point as a destination in the sat-nav, so that it's at the perfect temperature to select a charge quickly when you get there. So if you look at the middle bit, sort of side on of the Niro EV, it doesn't look that different to the old car, does it? But when you zoom out a bit, it does, I think, start to look a bit disjointed. So the most noticeable part is this rather large coloured flash on the side. Kind of makes me think about the Audi R8, probably more likely a smart car. It's very distinctive, I think is the word, and I'm not sure I'm a fan. It also means that you lose the rear 3/4 window, which I think might hurt visibility a little when you're behind the wheel. But there is a reason for it too, because what it's done is allow Kia to create this little aero outlet here, which allows air to flow right through there and out through the tail light, and that improves aerodynamics. Round at the front, you'll discover that the charging flap is now here in the centre of the car. And actually, whilst it does look more symmetrical there and quite elegant, it's actually one of my pet hates. I like my charging flaps at the rear on either side because I like to reverse into parking spaces so I can make a quick getaway. So this updated car is now fractionally longer, wider and higher, but the interior space has actually got quite a bit bigger thanks to some clever redesigning. For example, the front seats, I don't know if you can see, they're actually a lot thinner, but they do seem to be no less comfortable. There is also more leg room in the back because of that, and the boot is bigger too. There's also now a 20-litre frunk or fruitlet or bootlet or fruit, whatever you want to call it, and that's perfect for storing the charging cables in. Now at Electrifying, we had a strange complaint about the last Niro. It was a bit too fast, which might seem like an odd thing to say, but the truth is that we thought it had a little bit too much power. So this new version has the same amount of power, 201 brake horsepower, but the delivery of that power has been softened just a little bit. So the 0 to 62 time is slightly slower, rising from 7.5 seconds to 7.8 seconds. Not a massive difference, and I don't think it will be enough to notice without a stopwatch in your hand, but hopefully it just won't feel quite as frantic and urgent off the mark or when you're accelerating. And there's also been some pretty big changes to the suspension too, which should mean that it's comfier and more refined. Now inside you get this new dashboard layout. I guess this bit is a bit inspired by the EV6 with this new screen. Looks a bit more modern there at least. I'm not too sure about this part in the centre. There's also a head-up display as well. But it is the RSPA and the V2L that you'll want to show off to your friends about. So they might sound like characters from Star Wars, but they're actually some really interesting features. So RSPA is Remote Smart Parking Assist. It means you can drive the car forwards or backwards when you're outside the car using the key as a remote control. And that's really handy if somebody parks too close to you and wedges you in. And V2L, well, that is vehicle to load, which we've already seen in the EV6. So it means that you can power external electrical appliances using the battery power of the car. Now you can do that both externally and also inside the car. And it's really handy if you need to dry your hair whilst you're camping or make a cup of coffee or tea in the car park. Oh yes, Electrifying. The great news is that the new Kia Niro EV, not the e-Niro, that was the old one, Niro EV is the new one. Anyway, it comes with a tow bar for the first time and a very respectable charging capacity of 750 kilograms. Now Kia has really thought about using environmentally sound materials in here. See the headlining? Made from recycled wallpaper. The door panels, well, they're finished off in solvent-free paint. And the leathery seat coverings, well, they've never been part of the car. They're actually made from recycled plastics. To be honest, they do feel like that's what they're made from as well. And whilst I'm on the subject of plastics, some of the plastics here, particularly these on the back of the seats, do feel really cost conscious. Just don't feel very nice. You have got some nicer soft touch materials in the front though that gives it that sort of nice, slightly more premium feel. But actually good news back here is the amount of space that you get. As I said when I was sitting in the front, it's better, but you can actually see it now. Got decent headroom thanks to this little groove. And also the seat in front is set for Manos behind the camera, who is 6'2" and still good amount of leg room. And of course, because it is electric, we've got no transmission tunnel down here, so it means that you'll sit 3 passengers across here. Oh, and before I forget, that's the little point down there that I mentioned, and you will be able to power your hairdryer from it. Probably not when you're on the move though. Now when I'm charging in public, I tend to read my emails, scroll through my social, but in the new Niro, you can use that time much more wisely because you can opt for relaxation mode, which turns the passenger seat into, as it says on the tin, a relaxing place to grab a quick sleep. Oh gosh, sorry, don't tempt me. It was a very early start this morning. Come on, Teddy. Let's have 40 winks.
Now, if you're not quite ready to go full electric, there's still a plug-in hybrid version, which has a raft of improvements, including a pretty big increase in overall power from the petrol and electric motors, which go from 138 brake horsepower to 178. Now, the battery increases in size too, from a rather weedy 8.9 kilowatt hours to a slightly more impressive 11.1 kilowatt hours. That gives a range of around 35 to 37 miles on electric. There's also a new gizmo, and you know how much we like a gizmo. It's called the Green Zone Drive Mode, and it uses the GPS to switch off the electric motor in designated urban areas. You can also program areas like your kid's school or your own neighbourhood to make sure that you're driving as green as possible in those areas too. And here's an interesting fact. The company has removed the reverse gear from the transmission, and that saves 2.3 kilograms in weight. But you don't have to get out and push either, don't panic, because going backwards is done entirely by the electric motor. Clever, eh?
So there you go, 10 things that we think you'd want to know about the new Niro EV. So what do you think? Are they enough to keep this car at the top of the electric sales charts? Or, heaven forbid, has Kia ruined the Niro? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and switch your notifications on so you know when our first drive video of this car has landed.